Welcome back, y'all. So today I'm going to be installing LMR's SVE throttle body and spacer EGR plate. Going to be some cuts in here between that because I'm also going to be replacing my fuel pressure regulator. I got this one. It's just a auto parts store one. Don't need to really spend a whole bunch of money on adjustable one at this stage. If you're, just a head cam intake, is really the factory spec will work just fine. However, mine is leaking, so this car is not holding fuel pressure now. But with all that being said, first thing we're going to have to do is get the intake tube off. We'll get the throttle position sensor and the IAC valve connector, get those disconnected. We'll be getting the throttle body unbolted, get the EGR block off, or EGR plate unbolted from the intake. And then I'll be cutting, because I'm also going to show you how to clean the IAC valve in a later video. And then also I'll do it as a separate video for the fuel pressure regulator. So with all that being said, when we get started, I have to, the first thing, like I said, go ahead and get the intake tube unbolted from the throttle body and the MAF sensor. Should be loose enough. Yeah, maybe not. Need it looser anyway for the bigger throttle body. There we go. That one's off of that side. This is really hard to do one-handed. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the IAC valve. Try to disconnect. I don't think I can do this one-handed, but we're going to disconnect the throttle position sensor, pull this vacuum hose off, and pretty much then we got to get the throttle cable disconnected, which trying to show you all this is gonna be fun. Maybe my GoPro cooperate. It's down here, if you can kind of see it right there. So in order to get that off, you gotta, it's kind of just popped on, but it's really hard to get to. So let me work on getting the throttle cable disconnected, and I'll be right back. So how I got it is I just went and twisted my screwdriver and kind of popped it off. You can kind of see how it's just kind of clamped on there to the bulb of that. So really the only thing holding the throttle body on now is the 4 bolts. Looks like mine has 2 different sizes. Looks like one of them's not the factory size. So I'm gonna have to figure that out and I'll let you know. Hang on. Okay, so these are 1/2-inch sockets, or nuts. They're actually all the same size, just one of mine looks different. First, before I break the throttle body loose, I'm going to go ahead and break the IAC valve loose, which are 5/16 bolts. Let's do this. There. I'm going to go ahead and take the IAC valve off, just because it can be a pain if the throttle body's not on already mounted to something, getting it on. So just take that off. Then get that out the way. There we go. Set this aside for later. And bolted the screwed the bolts for the IAC valve in the new throttle body so I wouldn't lose them. I do believe my studs are coming out instead of the yep. So it's probably gonna, whole thing's gonna come apart here in a minute. Yep. Let me go ahead and get the furthest one first. Now, this one's at least coming off. Looks like it's just that one so far. The stud wanted to come out of the intake. Oops. And I'll put the throttle position sensor on the car, on the new throttle body once I get it all mounted up. That's really not that difficult. Okay. Now, somebody used silicone. It's always a pain when someone decides to be cheap and use silicone on intake parts like this, because you never can quite get them off easy again. So, because I'm not really planning on keeping the stock throttle body, you don't want to do this to parts you're trying to keep. But yeah, that sucker's on there. So I'm going to have to try to take a screwdriver, try to get it in the crack to separate. Alright, that looks like it wants to all come out as one. So, you may not have this issue, but let me show you what's going on. So because someone siliconed the throttle body to the EGR plate, I now have to unbolt the EGR plate from the bracket. Good times. So let me get also need to unhook the EGR, the EGR connector undone. Actually, it might break free. Nope. Okay. So that's all that's really holding it on now is that's in the way. So we work on that and I'll be back. Okay, now that that's out of the way, I got the throttle body off. Took quite a lot of prying with the little pry bar because all the bolts were kind of, well, they're all boogered up and rusty. So I'm gonna spray those with a little WD-40. Try and get those on. There we go. Let those soak for a little while get ready to do the next step. So the next thing I got to do We're gonna have to get the EGR off of the old throttle body, and then put it on the new one, more or less. Once we do that, we'll go ahead and get the throttle position sensor. Actually, I'll leave that off until I'm ready to put it back on. But that EGR goes on here, and then you're pretty much ready to put it back on. However, like, as I said earlier, I'm going to be cleaning the IAC valve and replacing the fuel pressure regulator. Now that everything's out of the way, it's a lot easier to get to the bolts. So, for some reason, they decided to put the bolts underneath, which sucks. So, anyway, so stay tuned, I'll be back. Okay, so to get the EGR off, it's two different sizes. I'm using a 15 on one side, which I guess would be the bottom, and then a ½ inch. So it's not probably, it's probably whichever, you know, 13 or half on this top side, and the 15 or whatever the standard equivalent is. But EGR is off, so this is now irrelevant. Throw that in our throw this in my spare parts scrap pile, and we go get the other the new EGR plate, and I'll be back. All right, so got it on the new block-off plate, not block-off plate, EGR plate. So this supplied nuts that come with the LMR piece, the ½ inch will still work on the top side. However, you need to get like a 9/16 for the bottom. It's a little bit smaller of a head than the bolt or the nut that came from the factory. And I need to turn this around and tighten this up this way, get a better bite. Yes, I know my vise is loose. It's one of the many things I need to get finished or work on. But now this one. That ain't going nowhere. Get this way so I can pull. You can always get more torque if you're pulling just than pushing. That's just standard physics. Okay, so the EGR is back on. It will go like this. Intake, throttle body. These are don't matter because the coolant hoses have been deleted on my car. But stay tuned. I'll be back. Next, I'll be probably go ahead and slide this on the car, then bolt the throttle body up to it. So, be right back. Okay, so about ready to put the EGR plate on. So you get two gaskets with the plate, but you also get an extra one with the throttle body. So this one with the notches is the one that goes with the plate, and you can kind of shape it and see how it's going to fit. And I think that's right. Let's see here. Kind of shape it and see where the holes line up, that it doesn't interfere with the tube. And I think that's how it's gonna go right there. Does it interfere? No. Okay. All right. So we're gonna get this down here so you can see. I've already got the EGR hooked up and connected, both the vacuum and the connector, so that's not an issue. Now, I'll go ahead and put this one right here for the throttle body. Now, take the throttle body. It's going to go like this. IAC valve's going to go over here. TPS goes right here. And just remember, if you remember that the throttle cable linkage is on the bottom, it's too easy. So get her pressed up there. This nut started. Of course, it's gonna wanna fight me. See if I can't get this one stud going. It needs to run all the way back in there. Okay. All right, so next I'm just going to be tightening this up on the, tightening all these up. So I'm not going to make you watch that. I'll be right back. All right, now that the throttle body's in there, I'm going to be putting the IAC valve back on. So I've got to get my gasket for that. It's a 2 5/16 head bolts. Remember which way goes which. It's like that. Get her started on top. Okay. And okay, I'm going to go ahead and hook up the connector for the IAC valve, so I don't forget that later. So this is not the factory style connection. Actually it is. So if you look at how it moves, you can kind of adjust it, although I'm not really sure how you do it with it on the car. But it does come, I'm talking about the TPS sensor. By the way, it does come with, throttle body does come with a little gasket that's going to go down in there to kind of help protect it. Now, I'll be right back because I got to take the old one off, and I'll be putting it on here. Okay, so if you look at this head here on the throttle body, you watch how when you open the throttle, how it twists, and then you have these teeth in here that are going to drive the sensor. So you have to basically get those teeth so that when the sensor's lined up and the throttle opens, it twists the sensor, or the internals of the sensor. Otherwise it's not going to get a reading. Now I'm going to have to reset this later because I'm going to have to completely redo my base idle for this car once I'm done. That's okay. It has to happen, so I'm not upset about it. get this tight. You really, especially until you set your base idle, you really just need this tight enough that it won't jump off of those teeth. So try and show that. See if it gets up in there. I don't know if it's gonna come off focus. Well, all right, I've got it in the right position. So as the throttle body turns, it's turning the sensor. Now I gotta hook up the sensor real quick before I forget. Once I find the connector. And then, actually, I will probably go ahead and put this in there. Figure out the best routing for this harness, this piece of harness. There we go. Okay. Okay, throttle position sensors in. Now I need to hook up the throttle cable bracket to the throttle body, the plate. Which is kind of a pain, but we'll get it done. That one started. Okay. Showing anything? I apologize. Kind of lost track. So this is just bolting up the throttle body, the throttle cable bracket to the EGR adapter. I don't remember what that piece is called, but once that's done, all I gotta do is hook up the throttle cable to the intake, or to the throttle body. Okay. Those out of the way. And all I gotta do is the throttle cable. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just gonna pop it. Well, I'm gonna have to pop it with a screwdriver, it looks like, against the valve cover. But let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so throttle body cable is connected. All that's really left is getting the intake tube mounted up. However, the stock intake tube will not fit this throttle body. So I am going to be ordering a new intake tube. And I probably will honestly just use the piece that goes from here to here, if I can, because I think the stock air box is fine. However, if I have to use a different air intake altogether, I will. But the next thing you would be doing is basically putting the intake tube on and setting your base idle. So that's pretty much it for installing the throttle body. If you have any, if you like this type of content, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, please. And yeah, until next time, I'll be back.